The government has unveiled its COVID autumn and winter plan, and the pandemic continues to take much of its attention. But ministers also face an old threat: seasonal flu.
What the scientists are saying is that things like flu will come back this winter. We may have a rough winter for all sorts of reasons, and obviously there are big pressures on the NHS.
You might think we're well equipped to fight flu by now, but this year represents a completely new challenge. Flu thrives in communities that have little or no immunity. That immunity is built in two ways: by catching the virus or by being vaccinated. But due to COVID fighting measures that limited interaction, cases of flu in the community went down by up to 95% in 2020. In England, in December last year, the rate of flu-like symptoms was between 0.5 and 1.3 per 100,000 people. But we would normally expect that figure to be between 9.9 and 18.9 based on the 5-year average. There's a similar trend in Europe. These lines show positive tests over the winter period in the last 5 years. This is how it looked last winter. Not only does this mean many of us have not built up a natural immunity, it also presents a second challenge: how to produce an effective jab. The vaccine contains inactivated extracts from different strains of the virus. It works by stimulating your immune system to produce antibodies. They stay in your body, so that if you're exposed to the flu virus naturally, your immune system can recognise it, attack it, and prevent it from causing flu. Flu is challenging to fight because it's constantly mutating, and different strains become more or less common each year. Every year, the World Health Organization and the EU identify which strains are likely to be prevalent for that year's flu season, and new vaccines are produced to protect against these strains. They do that by using strains from around the world, thanks to a global network of 147 laboratories in 110 countries to monitor flu outbreaks. But with a big drop in samples, experts are pessimistic about how effective this year's jab is going to be. Vaccine developer Dr. Beverly Taylor recently reported a 94% drop in the genetic sequence data that is reported into its database. And even at the best of times, the jab is only up to 50% effective. The knock-on effect could be significant. Before COVID, seasonal flu killed about 7,000 people in the UK a year, with the number of infections up to thousands of times higher. The government's new Virus Threats Advisory Group is warning that we could see twice as many flu cases as a normal year. This would put extra pressure on the NHS at a time when it's still reeling from COVID-19. A recent report suggested that the cancer treatment backlog in England, caused by COVID, could take as long as a decade to clear. The strain on the health service can also be measured by looking at how many hospital beds are taken. An 85% rate is generally considered to be the limit at which hospitals are able to work safely and effectively. But the latest data shows that of the 223 trusts in England, 82 exceeded the 85% rate, 35 reached levels above 90%, and 6 trusts reached levels above 95%. This paints a bleak picture for the winter when coupled with reports that having both flu and COVID at once nearly doubles the risk of death. So what is being done? The government has pledged to roll out its biggest ever flu vaccination campaign aimed at ensuring the most vulnerable are covered.
I would say to those people listening that certainly those that are over 50, getting your flu jab is going to be as important as having your COVID jab.
And looking to the future, some vaccine developers are working on a combined booster for flu and COVID. But even if the worst predictions do not come true, there are longer-term concerns as well. This is not a new problem. Back in 2012, the then Director of Immunology for the Department of Health said developing a flu jab was, to a degree, a gamble because it's based on prediction. Professor David Salisbury added that there will be times when the match isn't good and the vaccine won't be efficacious. So where does this leave us? A fear that the NHS could buckle, even if the number of COVID patients is relatively low. And the realisation that longer term, combating flu might require a new approach.